Hey, today on FlyWire, we're going to talk about upset prevention and recovery training. Instead of listening to me all the time, we're going to talk to Corey. So stick with me on FlyWire. Hey, I'm Scott Perdue, and today on FlyWire, I'm with Corey Benson here, and we've been doing upset prevention and recovery training in Charlie. And it was a pretty much of an eye-opening event, and during the discussion, we're actually on day 2 of the course, and it's cloudy outside, so we can't go fly the third sortie right now. So we were talking, and actually some really tremendous observations, so I thought there'd be a lot of value for you guys to listen to what Corey has to say, what your experience was. So with that,
yeah, it was interesting, amazing, out here, with Scott all day yesterday. And one thing that I was kind of telling Scott about was I didn't understand. So I've done a lot of training. I'm still a fairly new pilot, but really wanted to look into. And the thing that always kind of worried me is if I ever got into a situation, an instrument rated.
Easy for me to say.
Right, exactly. But if I ever got in a real bad upset, would I be able to recover? Is it something that I'd be able to do? Hence, what brought me here to do this training with you, Scott. And saying all the things that I've learned over the years that I've been flying is how to recover from the upset. That all could happen, and like you and I were just talking about, is that even if I get the plane recovered, I'm pointing down at the sky or down at the ground, or wherever I'm going, if I can start to recover from that, some of the G-forces and the things that are going on inside me, or my experience the first time flying in Charlie to, be in the plane to experience it, was like, it felt wrong. I mean, that's the best way to describe it. I can read everything I want in the books and that type of thing. And once you are in the plane and it all happens and you start pulling, 2-3 Gs, it feels uncomfortable. And I could see where, I was talking to my wife about it last night, I could see where I would actually want to relax the controls, and there's a good chance that I'm not pulling out of a dive, if I'm in a dive or if I'm in a spiral, pulling out of that, or pulling too much and breaking the plane, and that being bad as well. So.
Yeah, sweet. So he's talking about the spiral divergence exercise, and that the airplane is basically a little unstable in yaw, roll, and that's what makes it so nice to handle. It's really well handling airplane, but that slight instability also gives you a situation where if you're not paying attention, you're in the clouds and you're looking somewhere else, the airplane will fall off on a wing and it will accelerate in the turn. It will not level off the wings, and that's called spiral divergence. Most airplanes have that capacity or but not the propensity to do it. The Bonanza particularly does. So we do that exercise, and our knock-it-off points are 60 degrees of bank or 160 knots. And it will do faster than that. I mean, it accelerates very quickly, and what it's trying to do is find the trim speed, the angle of attack, wherever it was trimmed at, and so it can't level the wings. So it's doing is it's pitching into the turn.
It digs in.
And yeah, the recovery for that is when you roll out, you push. You do not pull, you push. And the spiral divergence is, in my opinion, what leads to the doctor killer nickname for the V-tail, because it is very susceptible to this spiral divergence situation, and before you know it, in our recovery, we were doing 175 knots, and that's well inside the yellow line. Yeah. And you try to pull, and the pitch that trim, it says it's very much like a trim stall exercise you can do in like a Cessna or something like that, but in a different situation. It wants to pitch in because it's going too fast for its trim, so it wants to hit that trim. So it'll easily, at those speeds, put 2 to 3, maybe even 4 Gs on it. I've seen 3. Yeah. And if you add more, especially if you snatch it, that's a bad thing. So
that's the panic. Like you're coming out of that. I've got the plane re-leveled, wings level, things are going good, but I'm in I'm doing 160, 170, and your natural reaction is to want to pull back. And it's not. It's going to really dig in, and that's when things go bad. You need to, and again, you can read about it, and that's what I think I was telling you about. I can read about it. I can watch all your videos. I can do all that, but for me anyway, until I was in the plane to then feel that on my body and go, I still need to push this forward as I'm, going to the ground. Like, it's counterintuitive, but then when you add G factors and all that type of stuff on you, that, like, yeah, I can see where you could get into trouble very easily, or doubt anything you've read or, trained in a classroom, not being in the plane.
Well, I thought it was it was really good observation you made about what's happening to you. In other words, like for the spin prevent exercise and the dive recoveries from the spins that we did, you're getting fast again, and you don't want to snatch the airplane because that's where you over G it, or you get into a secondary stall. So you want to progressively add G to it, but you want to have at least 3 Gs in the recovery. And the primary reason is if you're headed downhill and you're accelerating, and that's what you're doing when you're pointing downhill, you're accelerating, even if you're doing 2 Gs, and most of the students I've flown with, that maybe 2 Gs is what they get. But I want to see 3, because if you're doing 2 Gs, there's a situation, depending on your altitude, where your recovery is going to be below ground level.
Yeah.
And it won't, because you're not going to recover above ground level. But the flight path would be that. So if you do 3 Gs, that's going to minimize and stay within your G allowance for the airplane, airframe. So that you want to hit at least 3 Gs during the recovery.
Yeah.
But you said that it felt like you were doing something wrong there.
Right. 3 Gs is an uncomfortable feeling. For someone that's never done 3 Gs, it's an uncomfortable feeling. And you're right. It made me feel like I'm doing something wrong. And then you being able, to tell me keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling. It's like this is the right recovery for this. But if you weren't with me, got myself into that situation, my honesty probably is that I don't pull enough. And I'm, got the chance that I'm at a G, G and a half, 2 Gs, maybe 2.5 Gs. Hopefully I'm high enough that I don't hit the ground. But if you're low enough and in that altitude, you want to minimize that altitude loss, you've got to pull those Gs, and that G is uncomfortable feeling unless you do like the training we've done.
Yeah, and what I talk about all the time really is you want to do this in controlled conditions so you can learn what it feels like to fall off the edge of the world with somebody that can, that knows, that has done it before, instead of the first look. And I don't, most of the people I've flown with, it's no hit on anybody. It doesn't make you a bad pilot or anybody else that I've flown with. But most of the people I've flown with, the first look is, oh my gosh, it's just, and you don't think anymore. You don't think about what do I need to do next, and there's not a lot of time to do the right thing. But you can't focus on that because it's so far out of your experience. And that's the key observation, is doing it with somebody that you don't have to do it with me, but I suggest you go out and do it with somebody so you know what it's like to fall off the edge of the world. Go into that spin and recover from it. And so you're looking at a lot of ground. What did you think the first time you saw all that ground?
I don't want to say it on camera, but it takes your breath away and it shocks you. You know what I mean? And I've a quick background on me, I've done a lot of extreme sports. I've been a skydiver, all that type of thing. But it's when you're in the plane and especially it's that shock factor. And again, if you can gather it back up and go, all right, here's what my training taught me through a book. These are the things I need to do. Now you add in the second factor that if you snatch it too quick, that I think I had a few of those secondary stalls that come on, and you're like, wait a minute, I feel like I'm doing the right thing, and now I'm creating something else that's going on. So it's really remembering that. And then
and just a quick word about the secondary stalls. I see this often as you're looking at a lot of ground, once you stop the yaw and you broke the AOA, so you reattach the boundary layer, you can fly again. Now you got to do the recovery. And what I see is at your fairly slow speed, so people go, well, I want to not look down at the ground like that, right?
Right.
So they pull back pretty fast. Problem with that is that secondary stall, and if you have any aileron, which we did a couple of times.
We did.
Yeah. And I've seen rudder as well. When you do this, well, then you're right back into another departure.
Yeah.
And most of the time I've seen it go too far is going to be upside down, not upright.
Right.
And that's even more disconcerting. So
for sure, it's been an amazing experience, and I was telling Scott that like everybody should have to do this, in my opinion, because again, I feel like had I not come out here and we not experienced this, and then again, I'll continue to follow up with this training because things happen. Like it's making the right choices, but it's understanding what an uncomfortable feeling is that is right as well. Because again, mean, I can't stress it enough that I could get the plane straightened out, but then again, I'm snatching it too much, and then now if I stall it again or, depart it again, now what am I doing? Or I have it right, and now I'm recovering, and now I'm, pulling all those G's. Yeah, that can make you feel like, yeah, this isn't right, and makes you want to relax or do something you're not supposed to do at that point too.
Right,
you
yeah,
know?
easy to do.
Yeah, very easy to do.
Well, cool. Well, I thought it was, what you were saying was interesting, and your observations from the first-time experience. I've never actually thought about the concept of, well, doesn't feel right, the G. I just think about it as, this is part of the turning thing. This is, trying to get the airplane turning, you've got to pull some G.
Right, right, yeah.
And, so I've never actually thought about that. I mean, when my background is being a fighter guy, it's all about learning how to pull G, and you're not pulling enough G, and you're not doing it quick enough, and all stuff like that. So having that observation actually made a lot of sense to me, and I think it'd be important for you if you ever do the training, and hopefully you're never in a situation where you need it.
Right.
But so what's the first thing you do in an upset?
Unload.
Spin recovery.
Yeah, unload, and then just.
First thing is the rudder, but then it's not actually training. We're not training for the spin.
Right.
But it's the rudder, stop the yaw, and then unload.
Unload.
And then for the spin prevent, which is the ultimate goal of a UPRT, is
Unload and then coordinated.
coordinated aileron and rudder to
Aileron and
recover.
rudder to recover,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the spin prevent, it is possible to see some pretty good speeds there too, if your nose is really low and you have pretty good bank angle when it happens.
Yeah, for sure. And one quick thing, it's so seeing that for the first time, we're always used to flying straight and level for the most part. You've got some bank angle, but even in some points, nothing crazy going on, just that recovery, or it's normal, but when you're looking downhill, it gets your attention a little bit. So it's just kind of gets to be more of that natural reaction.
Well, good.
It feels normal.
Well, I'm glad you learned a lot. Glad you had a good time.
Yeah,
And yeah, I enjoyed it, and I think it's gonna be a good video. So hope you guys agreed too.
Thanks.
You bet. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on FlyWire.